Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Ignite Hub, whether you're here virtually or in person. We just opened our doors, so we'll let everybody join us. Just give everybody a minute to get settled in. So again, welcome to the Ignite Hub. I'm Kimberly Blackrington. I'm the director here. We're just letting our guests in. We have our doors open, and momentarily we will start with our presentation. Okay, I think we have most of our guests in, and we'll know as the presentation continues, we'll continue to let people in. So good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Blackrington. I am the director of the Ignite Hub. I welcome all of you that are here in person and also virtually. We have an exciting event today. Just a reminder, I'd love to introduce you more formally to the Hub. We are a vibrant and hybrid collaborative environment with cutting edge Apple technology to learn, innovate, solve community problems, and spur entrepreneurship and spark career interests and deepen the community's tech talent in Montgomery County. So welcome. As our name says, our goal is to encourage innovative growth in next generation IT empowerment. The Hub is located in Montgomery County in Rockville at Montgomery College on the Rockville campus. So for those of you that are joining us virtually, we hope that you will make your way over here and join us. Lastly, I want to make sure that you know that the Ignite Hub has 4 programming areas: high-tech learning, careers, business and entrepreneurship innovation, and community education. As part of our programming in the career area, we have a very special information session in collaboration with Montgomery College STEM Outreach Program, Mr. Mike Mihalik, and the Navy Labs in the Capital and Southern Maryland Tech Bridge Network to present our University Day. So welcome. Today, we are going to learn about science and engineering opportunities for summer 2023 student internships, as well as faculty research fellowships with our nation's naval labs. Our presenters today will be Dr. John Barkum, who is the Director of Engagement in the Carter Rock Division of the Naval Surface Warfare Center here locally in Montgomery County. And we also have Dr. Teresa Schaefer, who is on Zoom with us today. Thanks for waving, Dr. Schaefer. She is the Director of Engineering Education and Research Partnership with the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, Patuxent River, Maryland. So welcome to our presenters. With that, I am actually going to hand it over to them. Virtual guests, excuse me, since you're with us, any questions that you have, put them in the chat. We will make sure that our presenters get them and we will answer your questions. So with that, Dr. Barkum, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session today. As she said, I'm Dr. John Barkum. And hopefully I'm going to disentangle all the acronyms and all of the wonderful things that we like within the Navy, the Department of Defense. So welcome. Here's a brief agenda and introductions. Thank you, Kimberly, for that. She talked about the Ignite Hub here at Montgomery College, where I'm standing right now. On the next slide, I'm going to give one slide of who we are and what we do. We're kind of hard to explain. Some people know what these Navy labs do, heard them. Some people haven't, so it's something we want to do. And I'm going to give a snapshot of the labs that are here in the DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia area. Something you hear me say several times is we're really collaborating within this area because we're all co-located here, but most of these programs are national in scope, and there are other laboratories across the country that have the same programs. We will have links so that you can get to the work of those laboratories that are not us. So we don't want to just limit it to us. Then I'm going to give a little brief thing of this Carter Rock lab, where the name comes from and what we do right here in Bethesda, Maryland, just literally a couple of miles from the Montgomery College campus here in Rockville. And then Dr. Teresa Schaefer, I'm going to hand it over to her. She's going to talk about the Naval Air Warfare Center laboratory in Southern Maryland that does similar work in their area. And then probably what a lot of you are here for, we're going to talk about, Teresa will talk about some of the intern programs. We have slides with links, how to get to them, what you need to do, deadlines and everything, and wrap up in questions. So without any further ado, who is here today and what do we do? Again, I find this a bit of a challenge to say, so I wrote these centers up. And we tend to have, as I said, a lot of acronyms, but basically these three broad areas we all fall into. One of the big laboratories in our area that's really quite famous is the Naval Research Lab. We don't have anyone here from Naval Research Lab NRL today, but they are right here in Washington, DC. And they really do advanced science and technology for the nation and the Navy's long-term and immediate applications. What do I mean by that? And you'll hear this theme. I have a couple of slides later, whereas I kind of in my mind divide this work into what we call science technology, science being research where you don't know where it's going. Most people think that's traditionally university, discovery, technology, applying it to where you want to go, what kind of technology. And then that's really their area mostly, and they cover literally everything the Navy's interested in. So they're very broad coverage. These laboratories, warfare centers, we call them, ever like that, really are a mix of science, technology, discovery, innovation, and engineering. So again, you'll hear this, we engineer parts of the fleet. And in these laboratories, we're divided into different specialties that we all work on. So the Naval Air Warfare Centers that Dr. Schaefer will be talking about is all things aircraft, helicopters, unmanned systems, takeoff, landing from aircraft carriers, really cool stuff. There's also an air weapons division. They're out on the West Coast. They're also part of these programs. You can look them up through the links, but we're really not going to talk about them today. They're part of Dr. Schaefer's portfolio, but we just don't have time to talk about them. Naval Sea System Command Warfare Centers. I told you there was a lot of big words. That's really where I'm from, and it's an umbrella. Umbrella is the right term, over a number of laboratories that I'll mention here, and we do everything related to things that go in the water. Ships, submarines, unmanned vehicles in the water. There's a cool picture here that you'll see later. So the bumper sticker at the bottom, scientists and engineers, business and support experts for the new and existing technologies and systems across the Navy. So everything from business to innovation to data science that we want to do to support that. Contacts. So this will be made available to you. So this is the contact list. That's myself, Dr. Barkium. I'm here at Carter Rock, our headquarters at West Bethesda. Dr. Leslie Wilhelm, she's with the Indian Head Division. On the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about each one of these do. We have two people here, Dr. Martin and Dr. Clark. They're from Dahlgren Division. These first three are sister labs to me. We're all in the same command. They basically mean we all have the same admiral as a boss. That's what it turns into. And we have subtle specialties that I'll mention on the next slide. And the last one on here is Dr. Schaefer at the Naval Air Warfare Center. So next slide is just a map. I just pulled off Google Maps, stuck into PowerPoint and showed what they are. And that shows Washington, DC. I don't know if we can indicate it on there, but it's kind of up in the upper left. And you see NRL right there. They're right in down in DC. I'm just up the Potomac River in the Bethesda area in Montgomery County. Indian Head Laboratory, Marine Corps Warfighting Laboratory is also part of us. So they work for things for the Marine Corps as part of the Navy. Dahlgren Lab and the Naval Air Warfare Center is down in Southern Maryland. And if I click on these links, the first one I'm going to click on is actually the Naval Research Lab, the second one on here. And you'll see that open up, and that's actually nrl.navy.mil. That's the homepage for the Naval Research Lab, and they have an excellent homepage. You see here cool experiments where they're launching into space, where they're exploring quantum sciences, where they're exploring things under the water. So we work very closely with them, and that's really a great national resource that nobody else has for the Naval Research. Going to myself next, Carter Rock, that's the top link on here, which is not open. There we go. We do everything related to how ships perform in the water, from the materials to the structures. I'll spend a couple more slides talking about this. These cool pictures that you see right now are actually tow basins where we do experiments, where we combine computer calculations and physical experiments. So that's pretty cool. I want to make sure I take the time to talk about Indian Head Division, which I don't really have slides for, but they're down here on the Potomac. They're also really in Southern Maryland, and they do everything related to energetics, propulsion, and explosives for the Navy. So they're a unique asset. So everything, when you see missiles launch, everything, even things like ejection seats and safety and ordnance disposal. So when the Navy does things that they have to go in and find mines and find things for personnel safety, that's the Indian Division. But that is some of the coolest science that we have is right here at NSWC. Dahlgren Division here. So Dahlgren was actually named after a Civil War scientist and soldier did this. So we don't have time for that. But Dahlgren does everything related to weapon systems and radars. So you start to see that if you think of a ship or a submarine, there's all these sub areas within that, and each of the labs specializes. We have some in Florida that specialize in mines and coastals and landing ships. They're also part of this. They're not here today. So Dahlgren Division does all of this work related to the radars, the ships. You know, we have these fancy radar systems and ships with air-launched missiles. That's their job. And again, they're all part of this and have the contacts. Lastly, I'll click. I won't spend much time on this. The Naval Air Warfare Center Command. Dr. Schaefer will talk about that in a few minutes. So I want to tell you a few things about Carderock. Actually, I'm not sure where the name came from. There's a Carderock area, which is where the Potomac falls over at Great Falls, Maryland, beautiful park right on the Virginia border. And probably you can't read this, but we really do all the ship design and engineering. So every time a new ship comes into the Navy, it all has to be basically figured out by us. So everything related to the materials. I'll flip to the next slide. The stealth of the individual ship. So people think of stealthy airplanes. Well, that's Dr. Schaefer's area. We work on stealth on ships, so they can't be seen, they can't be detected magnetically, they can't be detected acoustically. And we monitor the ships so that you know, just like your car, it might work perfectly good out of the showroom, but if all of a sudden you might have squeaks and things and something that's rumbling. Well, that something in rumbling is very bad for a submarine. So we actually have engineers that go out into the fleet and check that. So that's a really cool job. Going around this slide, again, science and technology, test and evaluation, research and development. The upper one here is up on the upper left at about 11 o'clock here. They're actually setting up a model to test for radar. The young woman who's sitting inside something, that's actually a magnetic test facility that they take a model of a submarine and make a magnetic simulation model so that it acts just like the scale submarine. And they use that because we actually produce coils and systems to null out the magnetic field of the iron. So as it slides through the water, you can't see it with a magnet. In the middle, those two are actually continuation of the same thing. The bottom one looks like a full submarine because it is, and it looks like it's in this dock with these cables and wires around it. That's actually current running through those cables, and that's used to produce a magnetic field and test the submarine. So the models are tested in the lab, the real submarines tested right out in the field. And believe it or not, that's actually a portable system. I don't know, portable's got quotes on it here. We actually take the system to the submarines at Guam and Hawaii coast. So, and the right one where you see that purple and blue, we do advanced concept computer design of the current ships, of the next ship. So one of the things we want to do, taking that theme of magnetism, is design it so that you know the magnetic signature right away, try to minimize it before you build the ship. The Carderock Laboratory is here in Bethesda, Maryland, in Montgomery County, but we have facilities and sites across the country. We have a large group. It's probably hard to see on this. It's a cool slide, but it's hard to see. We have a group of 170 scientists and engineers in the Norfolk area. And they actually do everything related to small boats and crafts. So everything from boats that go up rivers, small boats, we even do that for the Army. By everything, I mean, when they're buying new boats, the Navy, our engineers are the ones that consult on how to do that best. When they're developing new things, when that you don't want that boat to be seen when you're working on engines. And they have test facilities down in Chesapeake Bay for doing that. Going from small boats to unmanned vehicles is not a hard step, so they do a lot of that. Down in Florida, we have a test facility. One of those is a magnetic range, so we can test magnetic systems. So that's right off Fort Lauderdale. West Coast, why are we on the West Coast? Because up in Idaho and in Washington, way upper left, it looks like an aerial picture of a fjord in Alaska. That's because that's what it is. We take submarines and give them very precision acoustic and magnetic testing. We actually have 1/3 scale submarines that we test in a lake in Idaho. Why Idaho? The savvy among you will realize that's not on the ocean, but the lake up there is acoustically transparent. It's the same temperature throughout, and it's like a giant laboratory for testing acoustics and magnetics of ships. Here's an aerial site of West Bethesda. This is our main site, and it looks, first thing you see is a long building that we're told the airline pilots call it tell people it's a spaghetti factory because you make long things in there. Contained in that building is these towing tanks where precision models are towed along basins in order to develop the drag, the waveform, and even exactly how the hull responds to the waves before you build a ship and put it in the water. Other area things we do there are other things we do there are, go ahead, go to the next slide, is one of the things we do there is we test ships for explosive. On the left, you'll see what looks like a giant charge going off in the water. We recently completed the first test in 30 years of an aircraft carrier where they actually have to test this. This is something the Navy doesn't like to do very often. One of the things we have to do is work with some of our sister divisions and make sure there's no marine mammals in the area. So it's very, very challenging to do that environmentally. So one of the things we work on, and we need computer scientists, simulation, material scientists, is we're working on computational and theoretical ways to calculate how the ship responds to an explosion so that we don't have to do these experiments that are tricky for the environment, very tricky and very expensive to do. But somewhere at some point, we have to know that if some bad guy comes along, they're not going to blow the ship up. Up in the upper right, and the next one is the same one that we have a partner. It's called Signatures, which is the umbrella term for everything related to stealth, related to ships. And one of our biggest departments is naval architecture and engineering. So that includes unmanned vehicles. Naval architecture is the term for the people, and usually, quite often, it's mechanical engineers, but it's also physicists and people who take civil engineering who help design the ships of the future. So everything from CAD models to calculations, and they work with the material scientists, the metal scientists, the welding folks in order to bring that all together. So it's a very exciting. Next slide, please. This one's probably hard to read. Careers at Carderock. This is got a link. The first thing is all government jobs. So internships, you can see right there, there's a link, and that link here on this page will frankly take you to all the other links that are on this in this brief. So they're really the same ones. Positions are applied for USA Jobs. I will be very honest, I think USA Jobs is not the greatest website in the universe. It's a little bit challenging, but there's also a link here to search for Carderock jobs. And there's a link here at NAVSEA, which we will put up there where candidates can submit resumes, proof of eligibility. We do hire civilian, we have to hire civilian employees who are permanent residents or citizens, and list some of the benefits of working here. So periodic job fairs, those are announced through some of these areas, those are intern programs. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Schaefer to tell a little bit about the Naval Air Warfare Center.
Thank you, Dr. Barkham. Good afternoon, everyone, both in person at the Ignite Hub as well as virtually. So as was mentioned, I am Teresa Schaefer. I work for the Navy as a civilian supporting aircraft, that all Navy and Marine Corps aircraft that we fly. So if we go to the next slide. What is NOC-AD? So we are a division of NAVAIR, which is the Naval Air Systems Command. And as was mentioned already, we have components on the East Coast that are part of NOC-AD, as well as our weapons division on the West Coast. And then we also, with NAVAIR, have our fleet readiness centers, which is our direct point of contact at all the vehicles and assets that we have that are supporting the fleet, and that we need to get any repairs or information. We can bring vehicles back into those depots and get them back out to the fleet as quickly as possible. So what does NOC-AD actually do, and where are we? So NOC-AD that I work for is down in Patuxent River, Maryland, which is about an hour and a half south of the Washington, D.C. area. It's a nice little peninsula down here. So if you like water activities and being around a lot of aviation and airplane, it's a perfect fit for you. We also have two divisions a little bit further away, one up in Lakehurst, New Jersey, which represents all our aircraft launch and recovery activities, as well as Orlando, Florida, which is our training systems division that does all of our simulators and human performance evaluations. So why are we really cool to work for, and what do we do? Well, we are the busiest flight test center in the world. Most days when you are here on base, you can see aircraft flying and taking off, and it's very loud with all the aircraft that we have on base. We support all Navy and Marine Corps aircraft that they have, and we do everything from the engineering, the test and evaluation, to the acquisition of those aircraft. So if you think of an aircraft that the Navy wants to put out into the fleet, we have to assess how will that aircraft perform, and what guidance do we need to give those who are flying it to make sure it's meeting the mission requirements. And then as we go down, we have to maintain all of the aircraft in the fleet. So the Navy is unique in that we have one of the harshest environments for aircraft to operate in. Being out on a ship is very, very corrosive, which is very difficult for a lot of our structures and materials of the aircraft. And then in addition to that, we land and take off of ships. So that's an extremely dynamic environment, which is very challenging for a lot of the pieces and parts, and requires engineering support to make sure that we are able to keep the aircraft in the fleet and serving and meeting the mission. Next slide. So what do we do? So I love this picture because this is one of our new aircraft. Up on the left, you see MQ-25, which is an unmanned tanker. So there is no pilot in that vehicle. Down below, you see our E-2D, which is one of our electronic warfare aircraft, and it is being refueled by the unmanned vehicle. This mission represents a lot of different entities in engineering and test and evaluation support that comes together to support the NOC-AD mission. Everything from flight testing, this actual event. So you've got people, engineers and pilots and folks on the ground as well as in the air that are evaluating and testing these systems for all of its requirements. You have the engineers supporting the propulsion systems. You have engineers supporting the communication systems, meeting the fuel systems. You've got a range that's making sure that we are monitoring the aircraft under test environments. We have simulations. So before the aircraft go up into flight, we're going to simulate what that looks like. We're going to try different scenarios to make sure we train as much as possible on the ground prior to going up into the air. We also have the integration of all these systems. So a lot of our aircraft, they have to meet interoperability and integration requirements. And so we have a lot of folks on base that'll support those objectives, as well as the human system in the loop. So you've got a pilot or you've got an operator down on the ground. How do we make sure that we're meeting their engineering and science challenges as well? Next slide. So if you like what you're hearing in terms of the stuff that the Air or Sea Systems commands do, and you want to start an exciting career with the Navy as a civilian, what are your options? Well, here are a couple of our internship pipeline programs that you can engage with any of these Navy commands in support of. On the far left-hand side, you'll see our CEP and our NREP programs. These, all of our Navy commands mentioned today, NRL, Carter Rock, Dahlgren, Indian Head, NOC-AD, NOC-WD, we all participate in these programs. You can apply, but the application window is coming up close. So this will expire at the end of the month. So you must apply by November 1st. So make sure you get those applications in if you're interested. The difference between CAP and NREP is one is for those high school students or who would be rising freshmen next summer, and NREP is for your current undergraduate or graduate level students. The other thing to note is with CAP and NREP, they are single summer opportunities only, and if you wish to return for subsequent summers, you have to reapply. The next program, third over, is our STEM Student Employment Program, which is SSEP. This one is a direct hiring authority that's been given to our Navy commands to be able to bring STEM students into our organization as civilians. So the big difference with this and the other programs is you are part of our organic workforce. And so you have the ability to return in subsequent summers pending the implementation of the programs. And at some institutions, you also, or some commands, you also have the ability to be eligible for tuition assistance. The last one is SMART, which is a program by DoD STEM. So this is actually accessible to not just any Navy commands, but also Air Force and Army as well. So if you're interested in maybe doing research for the government and want to pursue higher level education, this would be a great avenue to do so. You not only get tuition paid for and books and health insurance, but you get a stipend. So you're basically getting paid to be a student. It's highly competitive. So that application window closes December 1st. Next slide. I also want to give an opportunity to highlight a local program that we have here in St. Mary's County in Southern Maryland. This is with the University of Maryland and the Air Warfare Center that we have down here. This is an opportunity that if you start at a 2-year institution, you can transfer into UMD and receive a degree in electrical or mechanical engineering. And the courses are held for those last 2 years, your junior and senior year, down here in Southern Maryland and St. Mary's County. What makes this program really unique is the electives that are taught as part of the program are very naval aviation flavored. So our mechanical engineers are going to take an atmospheric flight course or a flight test engineering course that was developed by engineers and scientists here at NOC-AD, and they actually teach the course here in Southern Maryland. On the electrical engineering side, this is part of the cyber and autonomy focus. So again, we have folks that developed a cybersecurity course and then that also teach it here from Southern Maryland. The nice thing is over the years of this program, it's been around for over 10 years now. We've produced 146 graduates and 162 have internships either with NavAir or NavC. And most of them stay in our organization, which is fantastic. So if you're interested in this program or learning more, you're welcome to reach out to me or anyone at the University of Maryland Clark School of Engineering. We have had students from Montgomery County matriculate down into the program as well. Next slide. All right, so if you are a faculty member joining, there are lots of ways that you can engage with us as well. And the benefit to engaging with a Navy command is large. So you can gain insight into the lens with which we have to look at our engineering and science challenges. You can become aware of what our current challenges are, and you can apply your skill sets to those challenges. In addition, it plants roots in building collaborative relationships for opportunities moving forward for both you and your students. I leverage a lot of our summer faculty for recommendations for student hires, in addition to opportunities for funding announcements and other grant awards as well. So these are just a snapshot of some of the opportunities we have. So NDSEG NSEG is the any student interested in pursuing a PhD can apply for a grant through NDSEG, and this can give up to 3 years of support to help that student towards their PhD. There is no service obligation as part of the NDSEG program. Applications are coming up here at the end of the month, October 31st. So if you are a student that will obtain your bachelor's degree by the end of this year, this school year, and you are interested in obtaining a PhD on a DoD relevant topic, then I highly encourage you to apply to this program. The next one is not AD specific, but it has a sister program on the Naval Sea Systems side. So this is a seed grant program. So if you're interested in doing basic and applied research with NOC AD, you have an opportunity to apply to our office-wide BAA. It closes at the end of June or at the beginning of June. Typical awards for seed grants are less than 100K a year at a period of performance of about 2 years. The sister program on the Sea System side is the NEEC, the Naval Engineering Education Consortium, which I believe is also open currently for solicitation for basic and applied research opportunities as well. And then the other two on the right are opportunities for summer fellowship or sabbaticals. Those are run from the Office of Naval Research, which is our science and technology arm for the Navy, and they facilitate either a 10-week summer opportunity for a faculty member to come into our labs, into the various Navy labs, or a whole sabbatical program anywhere from 6 months to a year. You can log on to those websites to look at further information on how to apply and what is necessary. For the summer fellowship program, the deadline is by December 14th, and the sabbatical leave program is fluid throughout the year. You just have to apply 6 months prior to the start of your desired sabbatical. And next slide, please. So I think that is all I have on mine. The NOC AD is an exciting place to work, especially if you like aircraft and being around. We work very closely with our Sea Systems sister commands because of the nature of integration between all of our aircraft on their ships. And we are definitely on the cutting edge of technology. So if you're interested in applying your skills to our current Navy problems, we'd be interested in having you. So thank you for your time, and back over to you, Dr. Barkham.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. I think we'll now take some questions from the chat.
I think we could start with one question in the hub that we have, and I'll come over here. We did have a question about interns who have dual citizenship. How does that work?
Yeah, I can't give one simple answer. It actually depends, unfortunately.
Okay.
Certain of the laboratories can't have anything except full U.S. citizens only. Some of them can do dual citizens. So the only thing I can tell you is go to the NREP page, especially for that, and look at the details for that. And each of these, one thing I wanted to emphasize, this is a great time to do this, all of these pages, Dr. Schaefer, myself, the other people, either them or the manager for that program are listed on the page. You can send them a message and ask, and a simple question like that may clear it up right away. So I would, especially encourage you to look at that, look at the POC, the contacts in there, fire off a question. We always answer them. So don't hesitate to do that. So another thing I'll jump in and say, when you're applying to these, beat the deadline. You have to beat the deadline. When you think about it, in all fairness to all the applicants across the country, they can't have any wiggle room with the deadline. So just whatever they ask for, you got to make sure you do. So starting the night before is not a good idea. Just keep that in mind.
Okay. Great. We have a question here from one of our participants. Hello, I was planning on transferring to UMD's embedded systems next year and already have clearance. It sounds like there are ample opportunities for mechanical and electrical engineering. Are there any opportunities for embedded systems?
I'm not sure I'm the best one to answer that. That's a specific area. So I would say, look, especially the NAVSEA laboratories that I represent have so many specialties. I'm thinking the Dahlgren laboratories more so. We have special ones that are at one of the laboratories in Indiana, again, not on the ocean, does electronics and electronic systems or unmanned vehicles. I think those would be more so. There's a description on the website of every single laboratory, including the Naval Research Laboratory. The program asks you to pick 3. Go ahead and do a little research, chat with people before you pick those 3. And your name goes into all the labs anyway. But it's also good to have some idea of the 3 you want to pick. And obviously it depends on where they are in the country too. So I would encourage you, but I don't have an exact answer.
Dr. Schaefer said yes in the chat. Do you want to add anything? Do you want to say anything, Dr. Schaefer, about that?
Sure,
And-
absolutely. Yes, we hire folks with a background and interest in embedded systems, especially moving forward. That is a growing field for us. In addition, I also want to highlight, just as an aside, artisans and technicians. So even non-degree, non-4-year institution degree students are of interest. We need to have IT specialists, as well as those that know how to create CAD drawings, or machinists, or electricians. All of that are other opportunities for us to hire. Some of these STEM programs might not be the best point of entry, but you can reach out to myself or Dr. Barkram or others for those as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. We have another question. Are there any opportunities for biochemists?
That's one I'm just going to have you look. We do a little bit in terms of, I'd say for internships, go ahead and look at Carter Rock. One area is we work on environmental systems, not specifically biochemistry, but everything related to the bacteria, literally how to deal with crustaceans and other things, tube worms and hull foulings within that. So that could be an interesting internship that's biologically related. Biochemistry, I think the Naval Research Lab would be the area of that. There's also a medical command that's not represented here, where they work on medical systems, and they're also part of these programs.
Thank you. Another question from the chat. When it comes to internships during the summer, if a student is traveling, are expenses on their end, are the expenses on their end, or are they covered by the program?
They have the stipend is listed in there. I don't want to quote the number because it's listed in there, and I think it's a good stipend, but it does not cover travel, and your travel and living costs have to come out of that stipend. So that's something to consider.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I'll add one thing to the biochemist. We don't hire biochemists per se, but we hire a lot of chemists. So we're looking at corrosion, NDI, materials, some of the best coatings we have to start moving away from because of environmental concerns. So not necessarily a direct biochemist pathway, but if you're interested and really excited on the chemist side of what you do, we definitely have opportunities to apply those skills.
I'll jump in and say, out of the top of my head, our department that does the environmental systems has 2 microbiologists, 2 or 3, a couple of chemical engineers, a few mechanical engineers, because these are mechanical engineers, and at least 1 chemical engineer that came out, so that was their degree. And then they learned the environmental systems that we work with.
Great. Thank you. Feel free to jump in with any other questions. Maybe somebody's typing. I'll remind everyone that this presentation is being recorded. We will put it on our YouTube channel. Additionally, we'll have links to the presentation, and all of you that have joined us today will also get a direct follow-up email with a link to our YouTube channel and also to the presentation as well, with all of the links, so you should be able to access them. Okay, Dr. Schaefer also says we also have a human factors engineering division that could hire biochemists. Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. The question is here, this is all in person, correct? So assuming all of are all of these internships in person?
Yes, that's a moving target.
Okay.
We actually, during the pandemic, some of the laboratories just were not able to support the program, unfortunately. Some of them, and I know mine was one of them, kept it going as a virtual program. And just like doing your virtual classes, it's not what you want to be doing. It's not ideal, but it did work. And it was a fully funded program. People were in their bedrooms or kitchens or wherever. We're trying to really have it be fully in place. Would you be able to do some of it in Zoom from different, we're all working that way now. So that's on an individual basis, but it's meant to be a real in-person experience where you work side by side with the laboratory scientists and engineers.
Excellent. Good.
And I'll add one thing in addition to that. If you are interested in a small virtual opportunity, there's a program called NRIP Fall Engagement, which you apply to the NRIP program. And for any of our NRIP applicants that aren't selected through the summer internship opportunity, they have the ability to apply to NRIP Fall Engagement, which is a 40-hour project all in a virtual environment where you're linked up with a mentor inside the command to complete a particular project. And that varies on if, I don't know, Dr. Barkham, if you all participate in the fall engagement, but we have for, I think, the past 3 years.
I don't believe we do. So definitely the Naval Air Warfare Center in Southern Maryland is an opportunity for that. I'll have to look into that. I think we're not a participant.
And I second what Dr. Barkham said on an in-person internship is very valuable for getting you hands-on experience and direct awareness of how to apply what you're learning in school to actual problems that we face every day. And it's really hard to accomplish a lot of those objectives. Even if you are a software person and developing code, it helps to really have your mentor side by side with you and helping you along, and also to see what the bigger picture is and the mission is that you're aligning to.
Using my wait time for questions. Okay, here's another question from the chat. Are there any internships related to biology?
It's very similar to at least for me, for the laboratory I work in, similar to the answer to the biochemistry question. Yes, we have biologists working in this area of environmental systems, which is a very
great.
And I would encourage you to look at the Naval Research Lab. I think one of the California labs does this, but they have good descriptions of the work at the individual lab. So do a little bit of your own research. But the Naval Research Lab and us work in that.
Thank you. Maybe somebody's typing, but Dr. Schaefer, Dr. Barkham, remind us again, what are those important deadlines that we need to know about?
November 1st for the intern program. That's the November 1st. That's in 3 weeks coming up. So
yes,
that's very close. Get it in there. The summer faculty program has more leeway. That's November 14th. I'm going to actually look at my slides, my cheat sheet here, make sure that I'm telling you the exact truth. November 1st for the high school program. We always talk about the intern program, but the high school program is really run by the same one. It's the same website like that. It's a little bit of different, less documentation needed for the high school students. Same deadline, November 1 high school, November 1 for the Naval Research Enterprise Intern Program. Smart Scholarship, these are really meant for people who are in college looking. That's a very nice scholarship. I think there's December 1st for that deadline.
Okay.
It's in the brief. And the summer faculty is November 14th. December, excuse me. December 14th. So there's quite a bit of time ready for that. So great thing is to contact one of us as a faculty member to discuss what it is that we want. So that one-on-one contact is the best way for that.
Excellent. A question from in person here at the hub. Can you tell us a little bit more about the experience of logging into that portal and creating an application? What should students be aware of? Can they save their application, or a couple of tips?
Yes. It's a good walkthrough. They've done a real good job. You can save your application. I would scan it and try to make sure you have, and this won't be a complete list, but it's on the website. You want recent transcripts. Now this gets to be a problem because I've seen, you'll have to check to see whether unofficial or official are required. And I know from various school systems, it can take a couple of weeks to get those transcripts. So
Right.
again, starting this on Halloween is not recommended. Make sure you have proof of citizenship, proof of a birth certificate, passport, things that you can scan in. They do this through a secure web portal. They don't do it through email. They don't want to see your social security number in email. I hope all of you are sophisticated enough to know that. So it's pretty rigorous. But right away, start thinking of getting some of your documentation together. The big ones being transcript, proof of citizenship, background. And so it's just, you have to do a little bit of work. I don't think it's that hard, but some of these things like transcripts have some lead time.
Yes,
That would be
you're
my
absolutely right.
And that's going to be true. That's going to be true for any of these. You
Right.
look across the nation,
Mhm.
government or business, they need this information.
Yeah.
So it's good practice.
Great.
I'll add to that, Kimberly, a couple things. One, for all of our jobs, you have to be eligible for a security clearance. So as you are applying to these jobs, if you are awarded an opportunity for an internship, you will begin the process for an interim security clearance. If you are curious about what goes into that background check or what would make you eligible or ineligible, the Fort Meade Alliance has a program out there with some advice that can help. It's called Project Scope, and I can pull up the link and put it into the chat. Just going through things that you can think through when what is looked at when you're being considered for that security clearance. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward with these internship applications. Another thing is look at the technical skills that you have, even a hobby. If you have, you might be a mechanical engineer in the classroom, or maybe you're a high school student that likes to tinker with a 3D printer and makes your own drone parts or something, or builds your own Arduino boards for, I don't know, watering the plants, whatever it is. If you've got some sort of technical skill set, whether it's a hobby or a team effort you've done as a school activity, highlight that. Because remember, on the other side, we are seeing hundreds of these applications. So figure out how to sell yourself and the skills that you can bring to the table to help us differentiate why we should hire you over another candidate. So beyond just a GPA, beyond just what we can see on paper, really try to key on some of those keywords, your technical skills and abilities, and what you bring into those roles.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. And actually, Mike, this might be a good time for you to tell us about, for Montgomery College students, what kind of support is available if they need help with completing the application or how to promote themselves for these types of opportunities.
Yes, thank you, Kimberly. As was said before, I'm the outreach and internship coordinator for Montgomery College, and part of my job is to help students become aware of opportunities for internships and research positions. I also assist them with resume and application preparation. And Montgomery College has a student career services office, and they can also help students with resumes, cover letters, and any other kind of writing that is needed for applying for positions.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think we are right. Oh, thank you, Dr. Schaefer, for putting that in the chat, and we'll make sure that that's part of our outreach materials. I do not see any more questions in the chat, and I don't think there are any questions here in the hub. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Before you leave, yes, thank you. If you can please fill out an evaluation, a survey of what did you think of this information session? The hub just opened. If you want to see more of these types of activities, with community partners, please let us know that. I also would like to make a pitch for our upcoming events that are coming. So very soon, we are going to have our next Future of Tech Lunch and Learn here in the Hub on October 20th. And we are featuring a speaker from the WMATA, so transportation, our transit authority here in the area. It's going to talk about cybersecurity in the real world, so transportation and technology. And we also have another event coming up the day after that with a nonprofit called Involve, and they are going to do a workshop on data visualization. So that is also going to be a hybrid event. So check out our events calendar on the Hub page, so you can sign up and participate for that. Future of Tech is open for the community, and the data visualization is for Montgomery College students. So thank you again. Please fill out the survey so we know how we did and how we can make this better. And again, all of the slides, the recording, contact information, everything will be shared with our participants today. So thank you again, Dr. Schaefer. Thank you again, Dr. Barkham. Thank you, Mike Malik, for your collaboration and helping to set this up. Thank you.